The cold, damp air of London in 1941 clung to Elara like a second skin. At 8 years old, she was a wisp of a girl, her bright blue eyes, usually full of childish wonder, now perpetually wide with a quiet apprehension. Air raid sirens were a familiar, terrifying song in their small East End neighbourhood, a prelude to the rumble of distant explosions that shook the very foundations of their terraced house. Her mother, Beatrice, a seamstress with weary hands and an even wearier spirit, would scoop Elara up, her small frame pressed against her mother's trembling body, and descend into the dank, cramped shelter beneath their home. Each night was a gamble, a silent prayer whispered into the darkness that dawn would bring another day, another chance to find a morsel of food, another hour of fragile peace. Beatrice rarely spoke of Elara's father. He was a soldier, away fighting somewhere in France, or perhaps Belgium, the details vague and shrouded in her mother's sorrowful silence. All Elara had of him was a faded photograph and a small silver locket her mother always wore, intricately carved with a rose and a single initial A. Beatrice clung to that locket as if it were a lifeline, a tangible connection to a love lost or suspended by the brutal hand of war. Elara often found herself tracing the delicate outline of the rose on her mother's chest, a silent comfort in the midst of chaos. The city around them was a constant reminder of the war's grip. Bombed-out buildings, ration queues, and the ever-present drone of planes overhead. Yet in their small, shared world, Beatrice tried to shield Elara from the worst of it, creating pockets of warmth with stories and songs, whispers of a future that felt impossibly distant. One particularly cold afternoon, after a night of relentless bombing, Beatrice decided they needed to venture further for supplies. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of dust, and the streets, usually bustling, were eerily quiet, save for the crunch of rubble underfoot. Elara, clutching a worn teddy bear, stayed close, her small hand firmly in her mother's calloused one. The city was a wounded beast, but life, stubbornly, persistently, continued. If you're finding Elara's story compelling, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any part of this journey. Days blurred into weeks, each one a testament to their resilience. The bombing raids continued, though with varying intensity, and the rhythm of life in wartime London became ingrained in Elara's small routine. She learned to discern the different sounds of the sirens, the whistle of falling bombs, and the distant thud of explosions, each signifying a different degree of immediate danger. Beatrice, despite her growing exhaustion, remained a pillar of strength, her determination to protect Elara unwavering. She bartered for food, patched their worn clothes, and even managed to find scraps of paper for Elara to draw on, her vivid imagination a temporary escape from their harsh reality. Elara's drawings were often of colourful gardens and bright sunshine, a stark contrast to the grey landscape outside their window. One morning, as Elara was helping her mother mend a torn blanket, a rare letter arrived. It was from a distant cousin in a small village in the countryside, far from the bombed cities, offering them a temporary refuge. Beatrice's eyes welled up with tears, a mix of relief and apprehension. Leaving London, the only home Elara had ever known, was a daunting prospect. The journey itself would be fraught with danger, trains often targeted, roads unpredictable. Yet the thought of Elara being safe, breathing clean air, away from the constant threat, was a powerful motivator. Elara, sensing her mother's quiet struggle, tugged at her skirt. "Are we going on an adventure, Mama?" she asked, her voice small but hopeful. Beatrice managed a weak smile. "Something like that, my love. A quiet adventure, away from the loud noises." The decision was made. They would pack what little they had, mostly essential clothing and a few precious keepsakes, including Beatrice's locket, which Elara now wore around her own neck for safeway. The preparation was a whirlwind of quiet activity, each item carefully chosen, each decision weighed against the risks. The thought of a peaceful night's sleep, without the terrifying wail of the sirens, was a powerful beacon guiding them forward. Their departure was set for the following week, a small window of opportunity between the unpredictable air raids. The train station was a maelstrom of activity, a convergence of desperate souls seeking refuge, soldiers on leave, and the constant movement of supplies. The air was thick with the smell of coal smoke and a pervasive sense of urgency. Elara, clutching her worn teddy bear and now the silver locket around her neck, felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of people, the loud voices, and the continuous announcements echoing through the vast, smoky hall. Beatrice held her hand so tightly it almost hurt, her eyes scanning the crowds, alert to any potential danger. Their train, packed to capacity, was a slow, arduous journey north. The landscape outside the window gradually changed, the bombed-out urban sprawl giving way to rolling green hills and quaint villages, a sight Elara had only ever seen in books. The journey was punctuated by unexpected stops, sometimes due to air raid warnings, other times for reasons unknown, leaving passengers in a state of anxious limbo. During one such stop, a group of soldiers boarded the train, their uniforms dusty and their faces etched with weariness. They settled into the crowded carriage, their presence a stark reminder of the war that raged beyond the peaceful countryside. Elara, usually shy around strangers, found her gaze drawn to one young soldier. He had kind eyes, despite the fatigue, and a gentle smile as he spoke to his comrades. He seemed different from the others, perhaps a little less hardened by the conflict. As the train lurched forward again, a sudden jolt sent Elara's teddy bear tumbling from her grasp, rolling under the soldier's seat. Without thinking, she scrambled after it, her small body squeezed between the narrow seats. As she reached for the bear, the silver locket which Beatrice had given her to wear for safekeeping swung forward and caught the soldier's eye. Her mother had insisted she wear it, believing it would protect her. Elara retrieved her teddy, and as she sat back up, the soldier looked at her, then his gaze fixed on the locket, his kind eyes widening with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. A sudden, inexplicable tremor ran through Elara as she met his gaze, a fleeting sense of connection in the midst of chaos. The soldier's eyes, previously kind, now held a deep, profound shock as they fixated on the silver locket around Elara's neck. He leaned forward, his voice a low, almost disbelieving whisper. Where did you get that necklace, little one?" Elara, startled by his intensity, instinctively clutched the locket. Her mother had told her it was special, a connection to her absent father. "My mommy gave it to me," she replied, her small voice barely audible above the train's rumble. Beatrice, who had been dozing, stirred awake, her eyes immediately falling on the soldier's intense gaze directed at Elara and the locket. A flicker of alarm crossed her face. The soldier, seemingly oblivious to Beatrice's presence for a moment, reached out a trembling hand, his fingers hovering inches from the locket. "Your mommy. What's her name?" He pressed, his voice strained with emotion. Elara looked at her mother, then back at the soldier. "Beatrice," she said simply. The name seemed to hit the soldier like a physical blow. His face, already pale with fatigue, drained of all color. His eyes, now glistening, filled with tears that began to spill over, tracing paths through the grime on his cheeks. He pulled something from under his tunic, a worn leather pouch, and from it he carefully extracted a twin locket, identical in every detail to the one Elara wore, complete with the same intricate rose carving and the initial A. He looked from Elara's locket to his own, then back to Beatrice, who was now fully awake, her own eyes wide with dawning recognition and a mixture of disbelief and profound grief. The air in the carriage seemed to thicken, the sounds of the train fading into a distant hum as a monumental truth began to unfold. This story is just getting started. If you're captivated by Elara's journey and want to see how this incredible encounter unfolds, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Beatrice's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp as her eyes locked onto the locket in the soldier's hand. It was an exact replica of the one she had given Elara, a locket that held the most precious, painful memories of her life. The soldier, still weeping silently, managed to choke out, "Beatrice, is it really you? And this little girl, is she ours?" The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken years of longing and despair. Beatrice could only nod, tears streaming down her own face now, a torrent of relief and sorrow. The soldier was Adam, her Adam, the man she had loved fiercely, the father of her child, whom she had presumed lost to the war's merciless embrace. He had been reported missing in action, presumed dead years ago, leaving her to raise Elara alone in a world consumed by conflict. Adam, overwhelmed, struggled to compose himself. He explained that his unit had been ambushed and he had been severely wounded, left for dead. A French resistance family had found him, nursed him back to health, and helped him evade capture, hiding him for months until he could finally make his way back to England. The journey was arduous, filled with close calls and near starvation. He had carried the locket with him the entire time, a constant reminder of the life he had left behind, the hope that kept him going through the darkest days. He had tried to send letters, but the chaos of war made communication almost impossible. Beatrice, through her tears, recounted her own struggles, the fear, the hunger, the constant threat of bombs, and the quiet determination to keep Elara safe, clinging to the fading hope that he might still be alive. Elara, sensing the profound emotion but not fully grasping its meaning, looked from her mother to the soldier, a flicker of understanding in her young eyes. This man, who looked at her with such overwhelming emotion, was not just a soldier. He was her father. The reunion unfolded in the crowded train carriage, a tender, fragile moment amidst the backdrop of war-torn Britain. Adam, still visibly shaken, reached out to Elara. "Hello, Elara," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm your daddy." Elara, usually reserved with strangers, felt an inexplicable pull towards this man, whose eyes mirrored her own. She tentatively reached out and touched his rough, calloused hand. His warmth was a comfort, a new, grounding presence in her tumultuous world. He gently pulled her into an embrace, a hug that was years in the making, a silent promise to make up for lost time. Beatrice watched, her heart overflowing with a mixture of joy and grief. The man she had mourned for so long was alive, standing before her, holding their daughter. The weight of years of solitude seemed to lift from her shoulders, replaced by a cautious, fragile hope. The other passengers, initially curious, had subtly given them space, respecting the deeply personal nature of the reunion. Some offered quiet smiles, their own lives touched by the pervasive sadness of war, yet finding a sliver of hope in this unexpected reunion. Adam, with Elara on his lap, began to tell her stories, simple tales of his time before the war, of growing up in a small village, of the things he loved to do. He spoke of the locket, explaining that he had given one to her mother when they were first married, a symbol of their unbreakable bond. He touched the silver rose on Elara's locket, his thumb gently tracing its outline. Elara, mesmerized, listened intently, her small hand resting on his arm, a silent bond forming between them. The train continued its journey north, but the world inside their small corner of the carriage had transformed. The uncertainty and fear of the outside world receded, replaced by the fragile, blossoming warmth of a family reunited against all odds. The train eventually pulled into a small, quiet station, a stark contrast to the bustling chaos of London. The air was cleaner here, crisp with the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke, the silence broken only by the chirping of unseen birds and the gentle bleating of sheep from rolling green pastures. Elara breathed it in, a foreign sensation after years of dust and soot. Beatrice's cousin Mary, a kind-faced woman with a gentle smile and practical hands, was waiting on the platform. Her eyes, initially searching, widened in an expression of profound shock and then unspeakable joy as she saw Adam standing tall beside Beatrice and Elara. Explanations followed, tearful and fragmented, a torrent of disbelief and overwhelming relief spilling out between the two women. Mary, despite the suddenness of it all, welcomed them with open arms, ushering them into her small, sturdy cottage nestled amongst the fields. The aroma of a warm, home-cooked meal, roast vegetables and thick, crusty bread, was a luxury they hadn't experienced in years, a comforting embrace after their arduous journey. The cottage, with its thatched roof and small, vibrant garden, felt instantly like a sanctuary, a haven from the relentless realities of war. For Elara, the countryside was a revelation. No sirens, no distant explosions, just the gentle hum of bees around Mary's lavender bushes and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. She explored the fields with an unbridled curiosity, her small legs carrying her through tall grasses, chasing butterflies with abandon, her laughter echoing freely for the first time in what felt like forever. Adam, still recovering from his ordeal, both physically and emotionally, spent his days reacquainting himself with his daughter. He taught her about the different trees, identifying the sturdy oaks and graceful willows, helped her spot tiny insects crawling among the wildflowers, and mimicked different bird calls, teaching her to identify the chirping robin from the cooing dove. He was a natural father, patient and loving, effortlessly filling the void that had been in Elara's life for so long. Beatrice watched them, her heart swelling with a bitter-sweet joy. There were still deep scars from the years of separation, a quiet sorrow that sometimes lingered in her eyes, a testament to the pain she had endured. Yet Adam's unexpected presence was a powerful healing balm, slowly mending the fractured pieces of her soul. They talked for hours into the night, sharing the untold stories of their separation, the grief and the hope, slowly stitching their broken lives back together with painstaking care. The future was still uncertain, the war far from over, but for the first time in a long time, they had each other. The simple, profound act of being together as a family felt like an impossible dream come true, a fragile, hard-won peace found amidst the enduring storm of a world at war. If you're finding Elara's story compelling, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any part of this journey. Life in the quiet countryside settled into a gentle rhythm of healing and cautious hope. Adam, though still bearing the physical scars of his wounds and the deeper emotional ones from his time away, found profound solace in the quiet domesticity of the cottage. He spent his days helping Mary with the myriad chores of country life, mending fences, tending to the small vegetable garden, and carrying water from the well. These simple, grounding tasks, so different from the chaos of battle, helped him re-establish a sense of purpose and stability. Most importantly, he dedicated himself to rebuilding his relationship with Elara. They would embark on long walks through the expansive fields, Adam patiently pointing out constellations in the vast, inky night sky, teaching Elara about the immense scale of the world beyond their small village. Elara, in turn, shared her vivid imagination, her colorful drawings, and her deeply held dreams of a world finally free from the shadow of war. She blossomed under his unwavering attention, her shy demeanor slowly replaced by a newfound confidence and a bubbling curiosity that had been long suppressed. Beatrice, too, gradually began to shed some of the immense weight she had carried for so long. She found immense comfort in Adam's constant presence, in the shared responsibility of parenting, and in the simple, everyday joys of their reunited family. They would spend evenings by the hearth, talking for hours about their hopes and fears, cautiously dreaming of a life free from the constant threat of bombs and rationing. Adam's miraculous return had not erased the trauma of the past, but it had provided an unshakable foundation for them to build upon. There were still moments of quiet reflection, memories of hardship surfacing unbidden, a sudden flicker of pain in their eyes. But now they faced these echoes of the past together, finding strength in their shared burden. The steadfast support of Mary and the small, close-knit community of the village also played a crucial role in their recovery, offering practical help and a sense of belonging. They were no longer alone, no longer isolated in their struggles. The war still raged on, a constant hum on the distant horizon, broadcasting its grim news over the radio. But within the warm, safe walls of their little cottage, a new normal was slowly but surely taking shape. It was a normal built on unwavering love, profound resilience, and the enduring strength of family bonds. Each passing day brought a new small victory, a new shared laugh, a new layer of understanding, slowly but surely patching the holes in their fractured past. This story is just getting started. If you're captivated by Elara's journey and want to see how this incredible encounter unfolds, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Despite the newfound peace and the comforting routines of rural life, the war remained a tangible, oppressive presence. News from the front lines, delivered by sparse radio broadcasts crackling with static and occasional worn newspapers, served as a constant, stark reminder of the ongoing conflict. They heard of the relentless bombing of German cities, the fierce fighting in North Africa, and the immense sacrifices being made by ordinary people. Adam, though safe for now in the quiet countryside, carried the immense weight of his experiences. He often had nightmares, waking in a cold sweat, his body trembling, haunted by the vivid faces of fallen comrades and the unspeakable horrors he had witnessed in the trenches and fields of France. He would toss and turn, muttering fragments of conversations or cries for help, and sometimes he would wake with a start, convinced he was still under fire. Beatrice, ever watchful, her own sleep often light, would immediately comfort him. She would sit by his side, gently stroking his hair, her quiet strength a soothing balm against the terrors that clung to his mind. They understood, without needing to speak it aloud, that the emotional scars of war ran deep, and true healing would be a long, gradual process, not a sudden event. Elara, too, was not entirely untouched by the lingering shadows of the conflict. While she no longer heard the wail of sirens or the earth-shaking rumble of explosions, the fear had been deeply ingrained within her young psyche. A sudden, loud noise, a distant clap of thunder, or even a slammed door could still make her flinch, her small body tensing instinctively. She often asked Adam, her voice small and filled with a childlike anxiety, "Will the bad men come here? Will they find us?" He would patiently reassure her, pulling her close into his strong embrace, promising to keep her safe, to protect their little haven. They spoke openly about their feelings, about the fear that had shadowed their lives, and the fragile hope that now illuminated their future, creating an environment of profound trust and understanding within their small family. Adam also grappled with a quiet, persistent guilt for those he had left behind, for the countless others still fighting, still suffering in the brutal conflict. He wrestled with the powerful desire to re-enlist, to do his part in securing victory, but the tormenting thought of leaving his family again, of risking another separation, was a burden he could barely bear. Beatrice, with her deep understanding of his internal conflict, gently reminded him that his first duty now was to his family, to the precious life they had miraculously found again against all odds. The future was still uncertain, shrouded in the mists of war, but their shared commitment to healing and supporting each other was their greatest strength, a quiet, defiant act of love against the pervasive darkness of the times. Don't miss the exciting conclusion to Elara's story. Hit subscribe to stay updated and watch how this family navigates their new life together. As the tide of the war finally began to turn, news of significant Allied victories brought a glimmer of true, undeniable hope to the small village. The air raids, once a terrifying daily reality, became a distant, fading memory, replaced by the joyful sound of distant church bells ringing out in celebration and the unrestrained laughter of children playing freely in the sun-drenched streets. Adam's physical wounds had long since healed, and though the deep emotional scars remained, weaving themselves into the fabric of his being, he had found a new, profound purpose in rebuilding his life with Beatrice and Elara. He took on odd jobs in the village, his skilled hands finding steady work in carpentry and general repairs for the local farmers and neighbors. Slowly, meticulously, he began saving what little money he earned, nurturing the dream of a stable future that no longer seemed like a distant, impossible fantasy. Elara continued to thrive, her childhood blossoming fully in the safety and love of her reunited family. She was a bright, curious girl, her early experiences of hardship and fear now replaced by a budding optimism and an eager embrace of the world around her. The silver locket, once a poignant symbol of her father's absence and a mother's fading hope, was now a tangible reminder of the incredible, miraculous reunion that had brought her family back together. She often ran her small fingers over the carved rose, a silent testament to the love that had endured through separation and war. Beatrice, no longer burdened by the immense weight of solitary survival and constant anxiety, found a renewed, vibrant joy in her small family. She and Adam often sat together in the evenings on their porch, hand in hand, watching Elara play in the twilight, their conversation filled with heartfelt plans for the future. A small home of their own, perhaps a larger garden, a life entirely free from the constant threat of war. They understood, with a profound shared knowledge, that the world would never truly be the same, that the indelible experiences of the war would forever be a part of them, shaping their perspectives and their resilience. But they also knew, with an unshakable certainty, that they had faced unimaginable adversity and emerged stronger. Their love and their collective resilience forged irrevocably in the brutal crucible of conflict. Their story was not just their own. It was a testament to the enduring human spirit, a beacon of hope in a world recovering from immense darkness, proving that even in the most desperate times, love and family could find a way not just to survive, but to triumph. And that concludes, she asked the soldier, "Do you know my mum?" He looked at her necklace and started crying. Thank you for watching. If you were moved by Elara's journey and her family's incredible resilience, please subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories and be sure to share this video with your friends and family. Your support helps us create more content like this.